new saying?
Go.
Ooh, don't stand where I'm at.
The hope is that we're not just kicking ourselves in the nuts with this thing. Duh. What's the new name for this, Aiden? All right, guys, it's been a while since we gave you an update on stuff that's going on. I think last update we gave you was coming out of Sema. Lots of stuff going on at the shop. We're not out racing. It's November, so getting ready for it. Is it November? December. You're watching this in December. It's freaking December. So, but we got back from Sema. We're getting ready for PRI next week, but we're also getting ready for Sick Week. Sick Week is coming up in February, so it's gaining quickly. So we're trying to get stuff ready for Sick Week so that hopefully we can get stuff down for testing. So, but I'll take you through some major upgrades that we're doing on 2.0, getting ready for Sick Week. As you know, it did win Drag Week. So, or you maybe know, maybe you don't know, but one drag week, but we want to make improvements because obviously there's that 5-second zone that's lingering there to try and run that all 5 days. I mean, that's really kind of the last major milestone, but we'll take you through that. We'll take you where we're at with the Durango because there's a fiasco with the Durango and whatever. Sometimes friends are not the best people to have help you with things. So we got my first drag and drive engine is back in the house. So been gone for a while, back in the house. I'll take you through that. Take you through the update on Aiden's car on the well, it can't be called shipbox. It's a new name. It's got to be coming for it. But what used to be the shipbox. So and updates on that and where we're at with that. Also, what we're taking to PRI, where we'll be at PRI, and oh, we got Christmas stuff. Christmas swag is available. So we got this new Santa shirt. There's also this green shirt. So that stuff's all sicktomag.com. You go get some merchandise. That's all limited because of that holiday crap or whatever. Everybody loved the pumpkin spice shirts. So now we got some Christmas shirts or whatever to go with it. So that's what we got. We'll get right into it. Okay, so major upgrades going on 2.0. So Bobby has been, well, Delta Pag made a new radiator for it. So smaller radiator because we've had that big truck radiator in there, and everything's worked okay with it, but not as efficient as we'd hoped with it. And I mean, yes, it lived. Yes, it kept everything cool. Yes, it led whatever. But changes for it to make everything better is obviously whatever. Something's not broke, we'll still try and fix it. So, but we're going with a smaller radiator. Delta Pag made this, so it's a single core. It's shorter, narrower. It's a wider single core. The old one was a double core, a lot beefier. This one's a lot lighter, but a couple other things with it is we had the big oil cooler on here. The trans cooler was in the trunk. So now we've gone with a different style to get the oil cooler up front, or oil cooler still up front, but get that split, get the trans cooler up front. Because when I was driving down the road, I'd always take the deck lid off the cars so that airflow was in the trunk so that the trans cooler could stay cool. So just want to get it up front, eliminate one fan, one load on the system that was an extra fan that was back there. I think it's going to work out good. Changing a lot of stuff with it as far as radiator cap was in the line. We basically came out of the radiator, we'd Y. We had multiple Ys in the system and different things. So we basically went from 112 to a Y to 212s. Then we'd go back 212s to 112-12A and stuff or whatever to come back and whatever. Just trying to make it better. But one thing is we always had a problem getting air out of the system. So because our high point was technically in the cylinder head and our radiator cap was down parallel to, you could hold it up and try and bubble it out, but it was always, we had different contraptions that we did to just try and burp the system out. So we're hoping we're making it better. Bobby's fabricating this tank up here with the radiator cap at the highest point in the system. So literally it's higher than the cylinder heads or anything. So all the air should rise to this. And basically we're coming out of the water pump. We're going into the engine. This is a dry deck block, so I don't know if I'm being too technical for some of you guys, but basically it just means the water is not flowing between the cylinder head and the block. So therefore, if you lift the head gasket, you're not pressurizing the cooling system. So the water is separate in both. So basically it is going into, which there's not real detailing give you the camera because it's a nightmare with hoses and everything in here, but technically the water is coming out of the pump. It goes in the block. It goes through the block, comes back out of the block, goes into the cylinder head. Actually, cylinder head on the opposite side, just worked out for plumbing, but goes into the cylinder head, comes out of the cylinder head, comes into this tank, or this reservoir, comes out of this reservoir, back into the radiator, cools it, back through the system. So that is, believe it or not, a more efficient way of working, I believe, than what we had going on before, because literally we just had 2 and Ys and whatever. So that's the cooling system upgrades, but lots of hose, lots of fittings, lots of stuff that has to be done to make all that work. The other is on the oil side. When I used to run a different manufacturer's oil, which I won't speak of, like we had a lot of aeration in the oil, so we actually had an anti-foam deal. I can't remember what the hell the thing was called, but literally pull the foam out and basically take the aeration out of the oil so that it wasn't so foamy. So now we run, I mean, been running for years, but it was still on there, so we just left it on there because it was all plumbed. But we've been running HBL forever. This is 2050. I run that in 1.0. Run full 70 weight in this, but we don't need that anymore because this oil doesn't foam. So therefore, changing stuff around, and Bobby's working on that, which is eliminating that out of the system because that gave us space for this. So it's kind of like, well, if we get rid of this now, then we can make this better, and that's where we're at with that. And then, so now the oil is just literally coming out through the oil cooler back into the can. So we run an oil cooler because it helps maintain the heat efficiently. So if you cool your oil and you're cooling your water, then everything works better than if you're just cooling your water and not cooling your oil. So is an oil cooler absolutely required? No, but we've found out that it really helps with the engine, running an oil cooler as well as a transcooler. So we got that going on, some changing with the fuel system and how we're doing the fuel lines. Once again, just to make everything better, because we were single filtering the back tank, and I know getting technical on this or whatever, but some of you guys will appreciate it, I guess, but we were single filtering the back tank, coming to the fuel rails. Front tank was going through the big filter, so now the back tank, even though it's getting filtered before it comes, we're going to send it, we're replumbing it in a way that it'll go through the big filter as well. And when I say back tank is methanol, that's what we're running and racing at the track. Back tank is pump gas, that's what we drive on the street, just 87 octane on the street. So so changing that around, once again, to try and make everything better. Now, the hope is that we're not just kicking ourselves in the nuts with this thing, because everything did work. We're just trying to make it better, and we won't have any time to test it to make sure it works better until we get to sick week. So, I mean, because literally we're going to take this thing to PRI, we'll drive it into PRI, we'll drive it out of PRI, we're going to get some dyno time with it because we still haven't sorted out all the injector changes, so we went to those APHIS injectors, which everything's great with, but we do have to sort out base tunes and everything, get it down to Florida, test it, but it won't get a lot of street driving probably until sick week, because sick week's in February. So literally we're in Michigan, so it's December. Bonus, a lot of extra space up front, because if any of you know, this radiator laid back on an angle before the old one, and that's part of the reason we went to a smaller radiator too, is to stand it straight up so that airflow coming through the grill is going to go through the radiator and not possibly ramp over the radiator and just catch part of it. We're not scientists, engineers, we're not anything, just a bunch of rednecks trying to figure something out that might work better. So that's what the goal is with that, but that's where we're at 2.0, but it will be in the, where's it going? It's going into the Pro Torque booth at PRI. So if you're PRI, come see it. Probably send it without the front end so that we can see all this crap that we just did to it and then get a better idea of it. But that'll be in the, like I said, that'll be in Pro Torque's booth at PRI. So that's what we got on 2.0. Take it to the other projects. Here's the deal or whatever. You have friends, and then maybe you never worked with the friends, but you think that they're capable of things they must not be capable of. And then time goes on, stories turn into lies, and then you show up thinking that you're going to pick up what was a ready to dyno engine. Supposedly it just was not on the dyno yet. And now for weeks the dyno was broke, and then needed headers for the dyno and whatever, lots of other excuses. So now there was 2 engine blocks, 2 Gen 3s that were being worked on for the Durango. And you go there and you think the first thing you're looking at is the second one, because you knew that one was not assembled, that there was some problem with it, that there was a crack or whatever, and the block had to start. Truth lie, I don't even know anymore. But so you show up thinking you're looking at the second one, and within the first 5 minutes you find out you're looking at the first one. It's buried in there, but I can tell you it was a raw block. So you got a block that the only thing that was on this block were the caps. No crank, no cam, no rods, no pistons, no any of the other things that went with it. How was that ready to dyno? Now, I was told, well, in 4 hours it would all be put together. You've had it for 9 months. You didn't have 4 hours to put it together? So, everybody knows that whatever, you get screwed by friends, you get screwed by engine, you get screwed by everybody. So just know that I'm not any better than you are at getting screwed over in situations. So we went there, Aiden and I, with the drag week trailer, and there were 2 Gen 3 Hemis there. Aiden's LS was there. These were all supposed to be done. So, well, they should have been done. Now, what was supposed to be done when we got there was supposed to be the 1 Gen 3 Hemi ready to go on the dyno. So it was not. The other one, all the pieces and parts, and all the pieces and parts are there. So it's not, this isn't a parts issue. This isn't that I'm waiting for something from the manufacturer. A lot of the parts I took care of getting and getting shipped directly to him. Other parts he got, but I know that those parts were there. So literally everything should be in here to put together the 2 Gen 3 Hemis. Now the LS out of Aiden's car, we were so far down the road by the time that he asked for parts for that I never sent him the parts to fix Aiden's car. But you got there and literally Aiden's car, the LS. So, but the LS, we whatever get into it or whatever, and you'll see later in this video. But like, heads are fully assembled, and the crank and the rods are out of it. But like, I mean, literally, best I can tell, it's got a 2-hour disassembly done to it, and that's all that had been done with it. Supposedly the heads had already been resurfaced because there was a little warpage, because if you know, the LS lifted both heads when Aiden put when he put the shipbox on his lid at Sick Week last year. So so supposedly it just needed the parts to put it back together, but it didn't. Like, nothing had been done to prep the block and prep the heads and everything else so that it was ready to put back together. So I mean, just whatever. So now got to sort out stuff for this to get this stuff together, because the car is almost done. It needs the engine to go into it. Transmission's at Rosler, so he should be done with that soon. And like I said, everything is real close with that. It's going to need the engine that's in here. So I'm going to take that LS out to Steve and put that on him, and hopefully he can get that turned around for us pretty quick. That we can get that, so we can get that car running together. That car is not, it should be ready to go by Sick Week, but it's not supposed to go to Sick Week. Joey is supposed to actually drive. Aiden's going to ride with him. Is the plan there, that he's taking his 56. So that is engines. I mean, these are heads, so you know that there's 6 heads and boxes in there. I mean, there is just a whole bunch of crap that we got to sort through and make sure that we do have everything to put together, and then we got to work on getting it together so that we can get the engine together for the Durango. So the Durango isn't going to PRI. We do have the engine out of it, which was the Darren Mayer engine. So that is empty spot where the engine once sat. But you got the blower, engine was on loan, the top fuel setup or whatever for it, that was on display at Sema in the Dodge booth. So that was cool. Lots of people loved it and everything. So it lets us know that we can fit something nice and big in there. That Bob made a big spot for it. But we do have to go to plan A before we move on to plan B. And plan A is we need to get the Gen 3 Hemi together. Intake manifold is done. I personally haven't seen. Bob, did you pick that up or did you not go?
I did not go.
Okay. But intake manifold's done. So it's like that was supposedly the last thing we were waiting for. Well, now it's the engine to put that damn thing on. So, but that's where we're at. We got to get going on that Gen 3 Hemi setup. But right now we're get 2.0 done, get that ready for PRI, and 1.0 is going to PRI. 1.0 will be in the gear vendor booth at PRI, and like I said, 2.0 will be in the Pro Torque booth. So that's what we got with the Durango. With that, oh, we'll take a look at the X shipbox, what it used to be. What's the new name of the shipbox, Bobby?
Well, someone said Deuce.
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 So we'll see. So now it's just crap.
The Deuce box.
Deuce. Take a big crap. But I get over that, and then my first drag and drive motor. Cover that with you. All right. My drag week journey started with the Indian Burial Ground car. That car is in Israel. Still out there on a car always. Every once in a while I get to see a picture of it. Unfortunately, the guy that bought it passed away. So I mean, his wife has it. It's in the garage, and I don't know if it'll come back to the U.S. I did say whatever. I mean, I've said that I'd be interested in the car because I kind of regret selling it because it kind of was the start of my drag week journey. But the power plant out of it didn't go with the car because the Indian Burial Ground car was 2010, was the first year I did drag week in it. It was with this engine. This engine here, 540 F2 Pro Charger on it, blow-through carburetor deal. This was the first engine. This was an old super gas motor out of like the UK or whatever that Steve had, and Steve put this together, and it went in there, and we did 2010 with it. 2010 was Rick, the old crabby guy in some of the videos. Rick rode with me in that in 2010. We were 50 miles from the end of the event, and we stuck our lifters, and that was it. And that was because of a bad valve lash deal. So and screwing up on the valve lash because rookie mistakes. But it came out for 2011, and actually the mule motor, which is 1.0's motor, well, the exact same motor in 1.0 went into the Indian Burial Ground car for 2011. So 2011 we had, and whatever. I mean, I covered that in the other stories or whatever, but either way, had temperamental issues with it because of the same thing, just literally putting the thing together and not have any time to test or sort out the bugs before you leave and then sort them out on drag week. But it actually, that motor had this Pro Charger on it, so the one in 1.0 with a Pro Charger on it in the Indian Burial Ground car. But either way, this is that first one, that 540 Pro Charge deal, about 1,200 horse deals, about what it's limited to, and it went to Grubby. So Grubner with the maroon Nova, which is actually a twin turbo deal now. It was a Pro Charge deal, but this was the first drivetrain then in his drag and drive deal before he went down the road that he's on or whatever now. Now, when he was getting started and needed a motor, this was sitting ready to go, and I'd sold the car without the motor because the other guy in Israel had already built a motor, so therefore he didn't need the motor, and it was just sitting on a shelf, and Grubby wanted it, so traded the jet boat. So Suck My Wake, the jet boat, was Grubby's, traded it to me for this engine. Well, then when I wanted to get rid of Suck My Wake to make space in the place up north, Grubby has been wanting it back since he gave it to me, basically. And I said, well, just trade me back the motor. So he just had this freshened and traded this back for the boat. So that's how I got this back. Not sure what we're going to do with it. I'm going to take it over to Steve, though, and just put it on the dyno or whatever. Just make a run through, make sure everything's ready to go. And then we don't know. Joe Barry was talking about using this in Joey's car. So Don't know, but it seems like he's got Joe Barry cold feet, can't make a decision. So, but if he doesn't use it, then we'll definitely have a purpose for it, like possibly in Bobby's car. So, but don't know if Bobby can handle that much power though. Like maybe we'll take the Pro Charger off and make it NA. Right, Bobby?
Can't really hear you if you're mumbling.
Yep. I tried to mumble. We said we'd have to make this NA if it was going to go in your car because that'd be too much power for you with a Pro Charger on it.
I don't think so. Yeah.
Come on, Terry. So that is the first drag and drive motor by Ford deal, rock solid deal, and that's a great starter platform for anybody that's phase 2, maybe a phase 2, I don't know, whatever. But that's what you got. Let's cover you on the shipbox. What's the new name for this, Aiden?
Deuce box.
Deuce box maybe. So we'll see. But so coming back together, I was reminded off camera by Bob that there's a lot more to do than I think it's close. But a lot of the stuff's back together. Fuel cell's back in the back of it. So doors are on it, coming together. It still needs a new front bumper. Obviously the engine, like I told you about, trans is on the way. Wiring, Aiden's gonna wire the car up. So, but lots of stuff, little stuff in between. This is that typical, like, it looks 95% done at a certain point, but it's really only like 50% done. It's at that 95% point where it looks 95% done, but it's only about 50% done. But it is coming good and it's looking good. The patina on it is awesome. So it is, there is way more or less of the factory color on this one than there was on the last one. But it's got that nice Arizona surface rust. So that is 100% real, not painted. That is 50 years. What was the license plate on this, Aiden? What was the date of the last license plate on this thing? It was early 70s though. So like literally it's been sitting in the desert for 50 years damn near, getting the right paint job. So, and needs to say with people screwing around, there's like a buff mark in the front where like a grinder or something hit it that like just ruined 50 years worth of nature's work with a freaking grinder mark. But either way, that's where we're at with that. It's got these fancy like the fancy chipped carbon wheel tubs because these are the other set that the Durango, they made 2 sets of them, one in the Durango, one in here. So now the other carbon doesn't match, but we had these tubs, so they went in. They were already here, so they happened. So, but that's where we're at with that, and that's what we got for you now. So come check us out, PRI. Like I said, we'll be in the Gear Vendor booth and the Pro Torque booth with 1.0 and 2.0. So whole crew's going to be down there. So you'll see Luke running around. You'll see Garrett, the new what the heck do you do when you do the drawings or whatever? Graphic design guy. Garrett, graphic design guy, is going to be down there. So you got that. Luke, B, the guy behind the camera, Bobby, Aiden, Jen will be down there. Who else? Oh, Derek Putnam on board. So we'll make a big news thing, but you can see the whatever. I'll give you the behind the scenes. So for the few people that watch this, but like Derek Putnam was our announcer Sick Week last year. He is coming on board to help with media, with content for the magazine, as well as for our website. So therefore trying to get more information out there, more updates on stuff, and trying to give you all that stuff without ads. So because literally, once again, that's the biggest part that I hate, is that like I try and read an article online and the pop-up ads, the other ads, and the frickin' percentages of cents or whatever that they're getting for showing me all that crap, I would give them the quarter just to not show me all that shit so I can read what the frick I want to read. So that's the idea behind Sick the Mag and having more content, is will be without ads. So, and that's all bought to you, paid for with subscribers to the magazine and people buying merch. So get over to the website, buy some merch, subscribe to the magazine. Thanks, guys.